we're going to talk about a lot of things, but let's start. Today is the 47th year anniversary of Star Wars: A New Hope. One of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's the movie I've seen the most. It's got to be the movie I've seen the most. It's just like the perfect 2 hours. I think I can just watch the movie without even seeing it. If I just heard it, I can just visualize the whole movie. Arguably the most iconic movie ever. So I guess we'll just give our overall thoughts to the movie. Like when I saw it, I mean, I don't even remember seeing it for the first time, but I think it's just a great introduction to the movie. I love that it starts off with episode 4. I think it's the best thing about Star Wars is that you start 4, 5, 6, then you go back 1, 2, 3, then you go 7, 8, 9. Even though 7, 8, 9 suck, it still works. Then you get spin-off stuff like Andor and Rogue One. Yeah, I mean, I just think it's great. I think the format of the movie I think is the best, where it kind of builds up. There's no lightsaber stuff, and at the end there's a lightsaber fight, which I think is always the best construction of a Star Wars movie. Even like Attack of the Clones had a lightsaber fight at the end. Phantom Menace had a fight at the end. So yeah, I really love everything about the movie. I think it's aged really well. Yeah, I think when you go back and watch Clone Wars, every conversation is better. There's a few holes in the movie, but I think it's nearly a perfect movie. What do you think?
Yeah, I love A New Hope. It's definitely my. I mean, it's hard. I don't think I can put it above Empire Strikes Back, but it is definitely my second favorite of all the Star Wars movies. Really, just top notch. It set the stage. It introduced us to the entire world, and just always going to be one of the most iconic movies of all time. So, I mean, that's where we get the mask from. That's where we get so much of the storyline, the origin, and it's special. It's special that it came out. What you said, 47 years ago today.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost a half a century. My mom was telling me stories about going to see it with like her grandmother and all this stuff that just happens. Like, it's really special, the impact that it's had on so many generations, not just ours. I remember watching it when I was 4 years old. My mom had like some VHS with George Lucas, had like an additional like extended 6 or 7 minute interview about Star Wars, and I probably watched that 100 times over. So definitely a special film. I am a fan of the re-release in theaters. I don't go to it often, but I think from a studio perspective, it makes a lot of sense. Like, if you have this IP, it's just sitting there. Why not? And people are going to go see it. It kind of does make sense to play it instead of the originals. Although I don't like that I'm saying that. It makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally biased because I have the unlimited pass, and I just have the schedule for it. But I mean, I did a review on Phantom Menace. I saw Phantom Menace. You can get into your thoughts, but I think it just totally changed my perspective on how good seeing Star Wars in theater is. It totally changes everything. I'm definitely gonna see all of them. I mean, Revenge of the Sith is gonna be like an event seeing that in the theater because it's been so long. But yeah, seeing lightsaber fights on big screen, like it really, really changes your perspective. Seeing these movies on the big screen. I guess give me your Phantom Menace thoughts.
Yeah, well, I like Phantom Menace as well. I thought that was it. It's probably it's hard to say, but I guess I would say Revenge of the Sith is the best of the prequels, followed pretty closely by Phantom Menace. I always liked it. I didn't go back and see it in theaters, but I'm sure it would absolutely enhance the movie for me. I remember when I was like 6 years old, I think it came out. My mom like got us out of school and all that stuff. It was like basically a national holiday when that movie came out. And when I was younger, it lived up to the hype. It was so good, and I'd be so curious to see how they like build the world of the clones and all the the mystery and the misdirect around Padme, and then of course like the pod race. There are so many iconic moments that really set the stage for so much that comes after. I think they definitely used Tatooine the best in that movie.
Yeah, good use of Tatooine. There's a lot of deleted scenes that I actually just saw for the first time this week that I think really explain a lot of the movie. People got annoyed about midichlorian counts. That never bothered me. The fact that like Anakin, I feel like is born. I always love that he's like the chosen one. I feel like I don't know why people get like offended that there's like people who are born with midichlorians. Like that's totally like that's like this. It's like an analogy for athletic ability, really. And I mean, all right. So let's rank our. Let's just start with ranking the original trilogy. So this will be an easy one.
So Empire Strikes Back, New Hope, and then Return of the Jedi is the last one. But it's still Return of the Jedi is still a very good movie. It's still like a solid I would say it's still a solid 8.3.
Return of the Jedi is probably turned into not only one of the most underrated Star Wars movies, one of the most underrated movies, period.
Yeah,
ever.
It's really good.
Especially as the third movie in the trilogy.
Yeah,
because most movies think like Terminator 1 and 2 are really good. Then it falls off a cliff. Even like I love Dark Knight Rises, but a lot of people like think that movie is not that good.
I thought it was great.
But so and the thing about Return of the Jedi and Star Wars is like you have to think of it in terms of set pieces. This is how I think about it, because the set piece in Empire Strikes Back is Hoth.
Yeah.
But the set piece in Return of the Jedi is Jabba's palace. I like Jabba's palace more.
Yeah,
I love Hoth.
It's such a badass.
So it's like, and then like you think, okay, then Cloud City, that's a whole set piece.
Yeah.
And then Return of the Jedi, they're on Dagobah, and then the Death Star. Where else do they go in Return? I'm trying to think what else they do in Return of the Jedi.
Endor.
Oh, right. Yeah, all of Endor. So, like, it really depends what planets you like. And, like, video games is such a big part of it because I played so many video games on Endor. I mean, like, we've played on all the planets.
Yeah.
So I'd have the same ranking as you, Empire, New Hope.
Nice.
Although a part of me, like, I don't know, New Hope is just so tough to, like.
Yeah, it's hard to not put it one, too.
And then, so you have the prequels, Revenge of the Sith, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
It's so tough for me to put Phantom Menace last, but I still think I do just because Yoda fighting. I love Count Dooku. Count Dooku is one of my favorite characters. I love Count Dooku fighting. And here's the thing, set pieces. The Jango Fett, Obi-Wan on Kamino. Not only on Kamino, but then the seismic charges when they're going through space.
Yeah.
Attack of the Clones isn't a good movie, but it's a very good YouTube movie. It has a lot of good scenes. Like, I'm always going on YouTube and just being like, oh, Mace Windu versus Jango.
It does set the stage for a lot.
Yeah.
Phantom Menace is kind of is like the main, like it just introduces Anakin. But you really get enveloped in the Clone Wars, like during.
It is the most Clone War movie because by the time you're at Revenge of the Sith, everything goes to shit. You don't really get. I mean, they really fucked up the timeline. You think about it. They should have had Anakin be a kid, like maybe the beginning of 1. He should have already been adult Anakin, end of 1.
Yeah. Introduced
to Count Dooku, Maul. Maybe there's some conflict there. Then in 2. Like we already know Hayden Christensen,
Yeah.
I always thought that time. To me, 2 and 3 are a package deal because Hayden Christensen's in both.
Yeah.
And he's not in the first one. And I feel like the first one always looks different. By the time you get to 2, there's so much more CGI.
Oh, the special effects between whatever that was, 99, I think,
and 2002, it's crazy. It's so much better. The turn of the
century, like with Jurassic Park and like the kind of all the revolution that came after that, it really.
It looks so different.
Those 5 years are probably the most like pivotal.
The Maul fight almost looks like grainy, like the original movies.
Yeah.
And you realize it only was like 20 years, not even. Like Return of the Jedi is 83.
At that point, I think it's pretty much all still filmed.
It's only 16 years later. And then, right into Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
I guess let's rank now. So I'd have Revenge of the Sith, Clones, Menace. I guess we'll rank the sequel trilogy, the shitty sequel trilogy.
It's barely worth it, dude.
I think
let's barely spend time on it. I think
7, 8, 9. I mean,
fuck.
No, I think 7, 9, 8. People have Rise of Skywalker.
I don't even think that 7 was good. 7 was basically a remake of New Hope.
Dude, I wish I had this channel. I remember seeing 7 with my dad, and I remember we left the movie theater and we were like, "Oh, that was just like a New Hope. Like, what the hell?"
It's the same thing.
Yeah, it was like where the lightsaber fights. Like, they literally, I can't believe J.J. Abrams. He was like, "I'm making a Star Wars movie."
Yeah, you got everyone so excited for 5 years.
The plot of the movie that he wrote was to destroy another Death Star at the end.
Yeah,
and not only that,
you have a whole universe.
Why did he bring back stormtroopers? This is my number one question. Everyone talks about Kylo and Rey and Finn and no. And people talk about people talk about like Snoke, and people are like, oh, they handled fine, forget that. Yeah. But like, why is it stormtroopers?
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
The reason why,
it's a tenet, but it's
and to
because
so this is a big thing about the MCU is that Avengers 1 and 2 have the same format, where at the end of the movie, the Avengers fight like these just a huge army of just bad guys that don't matter.
Yeah.
So the first movie is aliens, and the second movie is Ultron robots. Sure. And those fights are very, in my opinion, boring because none of the Avengers are going to die.
Yeah.
And they're all just killing these things don't matter. The reason why Infinity War was so different is because that wasn't the end of the movie. They're fighting Thanos the whole movie. Then at the end, they're fighting Thanos and he's kicking their ass. It's like a very different structured movie.
Yeah.
And so was Endgame. And where was I going with that? What was I talking about before that?
Star Wars.
Oh, I totally forgot.
Episode 7.
Oh yeah. So what I'm saying is like, I don't know why J.J. Abrams decided to like go back into the structure of 4
Yeah,
Like he had a wide open universe.
Go
like
back into it,
like
not even just borrow.
yeah, like
from
why
it.
not
Like,
make
took the whole
why
thing.
not make it mysterious? Like you like have someone looking for like Luke, like you said, Luke is missing. Someone's looking for Luke, and like, why does there have to be an empire and someone rebelling? Like, why does there always have to be a rebellion? Why can't it just be an open Star Wars universe?
And you had a whole thing about you were saying the difference between like, well, first off, I would say yeah, like you said, it's a big universe, and there are so many different interconnected things in Star Wars, whether it comes to like Ashoka, Andor, like all these other shows where you can tell all these other amazing stories in the universe. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Too bad I can just make it about the Death Star again. Like, yeah, I had a lot of problems with it.
And that was,
and you know what? I don't know. I can't even say that I like Last Jedi or Episode 9 more. To really answer your question, I can't rank the three